All right, all right. Welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah El Tale Mosi Bey on Magnus Crystal's Pyramid YouTube and Moroccan Post Media YouTube. Welcome. We have a wonderful show in store for you tonight. The heat's about to turn up tonight. Everybody else start. You got that title page? I'm going to start. Or it's the...
It's the first part right here.
All right. Yes. Did the United States and Morocco merge as one into one nation? The United States and Morocco merge into one nation. All right. So my website will be up soon. My website will be strolling across the screen pretty soon. mooresandmasonry.org. For any of my books, go to mooresandmasonry.org. Also, type your questions in during the course of the presentation. I will be checking. Israel and I will be monitoring the questions, but we will go into our presentation a bit before we field any questions or comments or criticism. All right, so we're about to get started. Let's turn up the heat.
Ready?
Yes, we're going to be ready to turn the heat up.
All right. So the lesson topic, we're going to talk about the merger. Did United States and Morocco merge into one nation? So did they unify? Did they merge? So this is the treaty, union, or merger. The topic of treaty, union, or merger. The legal difference between friendship and political consolidation. A treaty can create peace, trade, alliance, friendship, protection, or cooperation. But a unification treaty or declaration of merger must clearly transfer political authority, merge territory, create a new state, or place one state under the constitutional order of another. Philosophy. The philosophy behind this lesson is simple. A treaty is evidence of consent between governments, but the type of consent determines the legal effect. A peace treaty does not equal a merger. A friendship treaty does not equal one government. A trade treaty does not equal shared nationality. A unification treaty must clearly say that political authority, territory, constitution, government powers, or citizenship structures are being joined. The Vienna Convention principle is that a state's consent to be bound by a treaty is expressed through recognized acts such as signature, ratification, acceptance, approval, accession, or exchange of instruments. United Nations legal affairs. That means legal consequences must be proven by the instrument itself, not assumed from friendship language. So some principles. The principles. Number one, sovereignty is not surrendered by implication. Two governments can be friends, allies, trading partners, or treaty partners and still remain separate sovereigns. Two, treaty language controls the legal effect. A treaty of peace creates peace. A treaty of commerce creates commercial rules. A treaty of union creates union. Three, merger requires express political language. A true merger normally uses language such as shall be united into one kingdom, shall form a united republic, shall accede to the federal republic, shall form a sovereign federal state, shall be represented in one parliament. Four, separate parties mean separate governments. The Morocco-U.S. treaties repeatedly treat Morocco and the United States as two separate parties with separate citizens, subjects, vessels, ports, consuls, and governments. Avalon Project. That's where you can find the treaties. Number five, trade cooperation is not political consolidation. The U.S.-Morocco Free Trade Agreement, FTA, improves market access and commercial opportunity. It does not create one legislature, one court system, one citizenship, or one territorial government. United States Trade Representative. Elements of a true unification treaty or merger declaration. To prove a real governmental merger, look for these elements. 1. Named parties. Two or more existing governments or states. 2. Express intent to unite. Language saying they merge, unite, accede, or form one state. 3. New political structure. One parliament, one executive, one constitution, or one federal system. 4. Territorial effect. A clear statement that territory is joined or placed under one constitutional order. Citizenship or subject status effect. Number 5. People become citizens or subjects of the new or enlarged state. Number 6. Ratification. Approval by lawful political bodies, parliaments, councils, referendum, or authorized representatives. Number 7. Transition rules, laws, courts, debts, taxes, military, property, offices, and records are reorganized. The Morocco-U.S. relationship lacks those merger elements. So the core question, did the United States and Morocco ever merge into one government by a declaration of merger or unification treaty? The clear answer is no. Based on the known public treaty record, the United States and Morocco have a treaty relationship, not a governmental merger. Their major instruments are treaties of peace, friendship, commerce, protection, consular relations, and trade, not instruments creating one shared government. The 1786 Morocco-United States Treaty expressly calls itself a treaty of peace and friendship and refers to both sides as separate parties. It deals with war, commerce, ships, protection, consuls, and disputes, not a merger of sovereignty. The 1836 treaty likewise calls itself a treaty of peace with the Americans and again treats the United States and Morocco as separate parties. The modern U.S.-Morocco Free Trade Agreement, signed in 2004 and effective in 2006, is a trade agreement reducing barriers and expanding commercial opportunities, not a political union. So the lesson thesis, Unification Treaty. An international agreement between states to replace conflict and legal rules with a single uniform set of laws or to merge two or more states into one political and legal entity. See applications of Unification Treaty below. So applications of Unification Treaty. For two or more nations to merge into a single new nation is generally a multi-stage task involving both internal, domestic, legal changes and external, international legal agreements. Because there is no overarching governing body setting specific rules for this process, sovereign states must create their own legal framework for unification. In other words, both or all parties must pass domestic legislation, such as a merger act, within their respective legal framework to voluntarily relinquish their separate international personality and establish a common constitution, followed by a unification treaty signed between the two or more independent states. See examples of unification treaties below. So we have Yemen's April 22nd, 1990 Unification Treaty Agreement establishing a union between the state of Yemen, Arab Republic, and the state of the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen. This agreement establishing a union culminated in the full unification of North Yemen, Yemen Arab Republic, and South Yemen, People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, declared on May 22nd, 1990, to form the Republic of Yemen, creating a transitional period for political and economic integration, establishing a unified parliament and presidential council, and laying groundwork for multi-party democracy. Single state with shared democracy. That shouldn't be a period there. So laying groundwork for multi-party democracy, single state with shared legislative, executive, and judicial powers, establishing an interim presidential council, and setting the stage for the first multi-party elections in 1993. And then we have Germany's August 31st, 1990, treaty on the final settlement with respect to Germany. The core agreement of this unification treaty, Innengundsvertrag, between East and West Germany, that detailed the process of East Germany joining the Federal Republic, adopting West German laws. and establishing the new federal states, which was followed by the 2+4 agreement. East Germany and West Germany, the two, and the four World War II allied powers, US, UK, France, Soviet Union, the four, signed on September 12, 1990 in Moscow, which granted full sovereignty and ended the occupation rights. On October 3rd, 1990, German reunification officially took effect. German Unity Day. See Germany's Unification Treaty of August 31st, 1990, articles below. Abstract. The Unification Treaty was the result of intense negotiations between the GDR and the FRG. It provided for the reorganization of the GDR's administrative districts, Bezirk, into 5 federal states, Bundesländer, that would accede to the Federal Republic of Germany under the terms of Article 23 of the Basic Law. The treaty also addressed a myriad of legal and financial issues entailed in the introduction of the Federal Republic's political, economic, and social structures in the new eastern states. Article 1, Länder. 1. Upon the accession of the German Democratic Republic to the Federal Republic of Germany, in accordance with Article 23 of the Basic Law taking effect on 3 October 1990, the Länder of Brandenburg, Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, Saxony, Saxony-Anhalt, and Thuringia shall become Länder of the Federal Republic of Germany. So upon the accession, Number 2, the 23 boroughs of Berlin shall form Land Berlin. In Article 4, amendments to the Basic Law resulting from accession, the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany shall be amended as follows. So now they're amending the laws. Number 1, the preamble shall read as follows. Conscious of their responsibility before God and men, animated by the resolve to serve world peace as an equal partner in united Europe, the German people have adopted, by virtue of their constituent power, this basic law. The Germans in the Länder of Baden-Württemberg, Bavaria, Berlin, Brandenburg, Bremen, Hamburg, Hesse, Lower Saxony, Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, North Rhine/Westphalia, Rhineland-Palatinate, Saarland, Saxony, Saxony-Anhalt, Schleswig-Holstein, and Thuringia have achieved the unity and freedom of Germany and free self-determination. This basic law is thus valid for the entire German people. So the one Federal Reserve note would act as a commemoration after the unification treaty, if there was a unification treaty between United States and Morocco.
Yes, let me see real quick. Yeah, this is what I used when I was in the misconception, confined to that misconception that the United States and Morocco was one country. I pulled this out several hundred times, and thinking that this was evidence, and that we have, as we have at the top, if a merger did exist, this would be a commemoration, but this would not be evidence. The evidence would be the actual unification treaty or declaration of merger. But I was not thinking on this level. So what Israel presented, that was not my framework or reference point during this 27 years of my misconceptions. So I didn't grow. It's only been the past 7 years that I've grown, because I was locked into the misconception that the United States and Morocco is one country. That word one representing, the union between Morocco and United States into one country. That is, we are clearly showing you the substantive language of a couple unification treaties or declaration of mergers. So we're actually laying the groundwork for analysis, laying the groundwork for study, laying the groundwork for critical thinking and proper questions, and proper thinking about it.
Right.
Where that was not, I didn't have that. I simply, raised my hand. I parroted. All I did was, there was no studying. So I didn't study. We're studying now. This is studying. There was no studying. It's called parroting. What did you do, Abdullah? Did you study it? No, I parrot. Because the study is what we're doing now. I just parroted. Someone said it. I just parroted. 2,000 other people. That's. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If I say anything of that, if I say anything other than that, I'm lying. I have to tell you exactly what it is. If I say anything other than that, I would be lying. Go ahead, Israel.
Here we go. Federal courts, jurisdiction for the Moors. State courts don't have jurisdiction over the Moors. These are the misconceptions that are. Moorish nationalization status correction. So we have the constitutional fold of government, original organic United States Constitution, preamble, we the people of the United States. We have the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment.
So what I parroted for 27 years, I can't say taught, because we're teaching now, so I can't use the word taught, because we're teaching. So it was no teaching. It was some parrot. I got to keep it real, man. So I don't care about the criticism. I don't care about that. I care about elevating the people. I parried this, meaning that bringing the people back into the constitutional fold of government, moving them from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to the preamble of the United States Constitution, we the people of the United States. So I parroted, or I was presented that the Moorish nationalization process was the process that removes our people from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to we the people, to the preamble, we the people of the United States. I mean, moving back to that we the people of the United States are the Moors. That's the sovereign body, the Moors. So bringing our people back to that. So we were taken out of the sovereign body, we the people of the United States, and shift and taking out of that. So now the Moorish nationalization process is to take you out of the 13th, 14th Amendment back into the constitutional fold of government, we the people of the United States. I parroted that for 27 years to thousands of people. So I want to articulate the misconceptions with clarity. I continue as well. Thank you, brother.
So here we have Case Western Reserve University School of Law. Case Western Reserve Journal of International Law, Volume 13, Issue 2, Article 9, 1981. Consensual merger as a means of state secession and its relation to treaty obligations. by Ronald J. Klein.
Oh no, we
Consensual.
won't be dropping. No, real quick, we won't be dropping links for people for guests to join. You're join now. You just put your comments in. Just type your comments in, or criticism or question. But we don't put the StreamYard link in. I know there's other people that do that. There's other shows that do that, but we don't do that. Like, we'll bring guests on, but we don't put the StreamYard link in the comment section for anybody to come on. You can type your comments in. I just want to provide, because somebody had asked about that.
Yeah. All right, so consensual merger as a means of state secession and its relation to treaty obligations by Ronald J. Klein. Number 1, introduction. Modern day states have become increasingly affected by various nations' implementation of social, economic, and military aid and subsequent regulation. As a result, maintenance of internationally agreed upon rights and obligations has become a vital goal, achievement of which should be sought through daily intergovernmental contact. This need for international stability has been threatened by the accelerated rate of state secession. The 20th century has witnessed consecutive decolonization and self-determination efforts fostered by various nationality groups. Each time a state secession occurs, the new state exhibits a completely new identity. This factor raises the question of how international relations can progress without a guarantee of bilateral or multilateral compliance with established rights. This note will examine some of the various forms of state secession, with particular emphasis on consensual merger. In addition to analysis, will specifically examine successor states' treaty rights in relation to customary international law and the newly drafted Vienna Convention on the secession of states in respect of treaties. The United Arab Republic, UAR, a past consensual merger between Egypt and Syria, will be used as an example for the purpose of analysis throughout the note. The UAR, which was established in 1958 with the intent of creating a pan-Arab empire, has been the most successful of the many Mid-East merger attempts and will therefore serve as a helpful model.
All right, so what we're doing in this part 1, this is broken down into 2 areas of misconceptions on how the Moors of addressing the misconceptions of how the Moors became part and parcel or part of the United States. So we're addressing the first part, all right, and we'll address the second part in about 30 minutes of the Moroccan Empire and the United States merged into one nation. And so this is how. So the Moors are the supreme authority. So this is one area that we're addressing. And then 30 minutes from now, we'll address another area of the Noble Drawley's comment statement in the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Scientific of America. Being Moorish American, you're part and parcel of their said government must live a life accordingly. We will analyze that, all right, in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, the audience, y'all can screenshot these slides as well. Number 2, state secession and its variations. The term secession of states is commonly used to describe the evolution of a state into a new or already established sovereign containing an increased or diminished landmass. Personal unions, real unions, federations, confederations, and consensual mergers are but a few of the catalysts through which state secession occurs. Personal unions exist when states are independent, self-governing entities, but linked by the same ceremonial leader or ruler. A modern example of this form is the aggregate of Commonwealth countries under the British Crown. Both Canada and Australia, although separate states, owe allegiance to the Crown of England because of their common historical tradition. Alternatively, real unions consist of two or more states possessing an intertwined governmental structure. The states share a leader, and many of their institutions are merged to deal as a single unit at the international level. For example, the Austria-Hungary Empire during the years 1867 to 1918 was ruled by a monarchical leader. However, the two states maintained separate legislatures, which were required to grant authority for the states to act jointly. A confederation exists when two or more states remain separate and independent, but aggregate under a common central body to which they delegate certain limited powers. As a whole, the local units retain international acceptance as individual entities. The European Economic Community, which unites Western Europe and beyond, is an example of a successful economic confederation. On the other hand, the necessary elements of a federation are: 1. Division of powers between the central and regional governments; 2. A certain degree of independence between the central and regional governments; 3. Direct action on the people by the central and regional governments; and 4. Some means of preserving the constitutional division of power. The central or federal government usually retains complete authority over foreign policy. In other words, an individual component of a federation cannot represent or bind the entire federation under a treaty. One scholar, Dr. James A. Crawford, explicitly requires a fifth criterion: that the central government's powers include jurisdiction over all foreign affairs, as well as autonomous authority, integrating aspects of the local state's internal policies. By stipulating this element, more structure is added to the federated unit. The United States is a working example of this theory in practice. In addition, there is consensual merger, consisting of two or more states having separate international personalities, united under a common constitution, with a common head of state competent to represent them in their relations with other states. This type of unification is one in which both states negotiate on at least semi-equal terms to form a successor state. Subsequent to negotiations, a plebiscite may be conducted in the predecessor states to assure that the merging is voluntarily accepted by the people, not just the governments. Approval is indicated by an affirmative vote by a majority of the citizenry. As shall be pointed out later in this note, numerous factors are used to classify a state as being in one of the above forms. Among the characteristics which make one type of state more appropriate than another are landmass, culture, history, and population.
Real quick, Israel. Yes. So the what I parroted for 27 years is that the federal government is the Moorish government, and the state's government is the European. And so the union, so we're going back to the federal government, all right? That's the Moorish government that was established by the Moors. That means Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, and the gang had nothing to do with that, all right? Meaning that it's not the central governing, because it's established by the Moors. That's the Moorish government, all right? And so the state government, New Jersey State, South Carolina State, North Carolina State, Kentucky State, have no jurisdiction over the Moors. The Moorish jurisdiction lies in the federal government. The state government, California and South Carolina, Virginia, that's the European government. They have no jurisdiction over the Moors. So you move cases. You move your case from the state government with a notice of removal, remove it out of the state's government because the state's governments don't have jurisdiction over the Moors, only the federal government, because that's the Moorish government. So you remove the case to the federal government, which is the Moorish government. I parried this for 27 years. I have to articulate with clarity the misconceptions. I know them very well. I parried it for thousands of people for 27. I ate, slept, breathed this for 27 years. So I'm taking this experience of mine to shed light, but and also to challenge those who still are parrying the misconceptions, so that we can raise our people, question it. I never questioned it. I just parroted it. Though I was looking for, information or sources to verify it. But I just believed in it. I didn't know it. So I say to Israel and to Raheem and to King, what did I know? Like for those 27 years, yes, I know I grew in etymology and grammar and vocabulary building and dictionary study skills and semantics and poetry. And yeah, I grew, I had worked on Moors and Masonry and studying the treaties and letters. I had that. But I was still locked into the misconceptions. Like, what did I know? I just want to, so I'll continue to, present the angles of the misconception, just so that we can question, we can analyze, but we're giving y'all the basis to which to analyze. Doing a great job, Israel.
This is University of Nebraska, Lincoln, Digital Commons at University of Nebraska, Lincoln, Space, Cyber, and Telecommunications Law, Program Faculty Publications, Law College of Law, 3-1991, The Unification of Germany and International Law, Franz von der Dunk, University of Nebraska, Lincoln. All right. It's about Peter H. Koijmans, Leiden University. Published in Michigan Journal of International Law, 12 Spring 1991. The Unification of Germany and International Law. Franz G. von der Dunk and Peter H. Koijmans. Number 1, Introduction. 1, Germany. Make sure everyone can see. All right, the process of German unification, at least as far as its international legal aspects are concerned, is almost complete now. After the first Staatsvertrag, created as of July 1st, 1990, a monetary union between the Federal Republic of Germany, FRG, and the German Democratic Republic, GDR, the second Staatsvertrag, united the two states as of October 3, legally sealed the inter-German aspects of the unification. At the same time, the September 12 treaty between the four between the At the same time, the September 12th treaty between the four former occupation powers, the United States, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, and France, and the two former occupied German states took care of the remaining international aspects, along with the Treaty of Friendship between the FRG and the Soviet Union, and the German Polish Treaty on boundaries and friendly relations. Then on December 2nd, the first all German free elections were held. Okay. Number 2, the legal importance of the Unification Treaty after unification. Another important question is the legal significance of the Unification Treaty after October 3rd, 1990, when the German Democratic Republic no longer exists. The Unification Treaty is a treaty under public international law. When one party of such a bilateral treaty vanishes, who then is entitled to claim the rights given by the treaty against the other party? Article 44 of the Unification Treaty tries to tackle this problem by saying that the lander to be restored within the territory of the German Democratic Republic are entitled to assert the rights flowing from the Unification Treaty. The old traditional lander within the territory of the German Democratic Republic, Brandenburg, Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, Saxony-Anhalt, and Thuringia were abolished in 1953. They were restored on October 3rd, 1990. Ultimately, this means that those lander can sue the Federal Republic of Germany before the Federal Constitutional Court for an alleged breach of the treaty. However, it is not together clear to what extent the provisions of Article 44 of the Unification Treaty preserve the rights of the German Democratic Republic as a party to the treaty. Article 45 of the Unification Treaty says that after German unification, the treaty continues to be valid as federal law. It can then be changed in principle by the legislative bodies of the Federal Republic of Germany. Otherwise, these provisions would stand eternally as a barrier against the sovereignty of Parliament. This is Cardoza, Benjamin N. Cardoza School of Law, Cardoza Law Review, Volume 14, Issues 3-4, Article 9, Constitution Making by Treaty in German Unification. A comment on Arado, Elster, Preyes, and Richards by Peter E. Quint, University of Maryland Law School. Constitution Making by Treaty in German Unification. A comment on Arado, Elster, Preyes, and Richards. Peter E. Quint. I will respond to these extraordinarily rich and evocative articles by seeking to employ certain principles that they suggest to analyze a form of constitution making that they do not specifically consider constitution making by treaty as exemplified in the recent unification of West and East Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, and the German Democratic Republic. In this process, I assume a proposition that I think few will deny.
A few will deny. A few. I think few will deny.
I see where
read that first sentence on the second paragraph.
Yeah. All right. So in this process, I assume a proposition that I think few will deny. The coalescence of two separate and previously hostile political bodies of such size, 60 million and 16 million inhabitants, respectively, is a fundamental constitutional act and involves a constitutional settlement regardless of the extent to which applicable constitutional documents are altered or not altered in the process. In the case of German unification, one national constitution, the Constitution of the German Democratic Republic, GDR, went out of effect and the two German states adopted three separate treaties: the State Treaty, the Unification Treaty, and the 2+4 Treaty. The latter, together with the victorious allies of World War II, which must also be considered part of the constitutional settlement. These treaties not only set forth the fundamental political guidelines for unification and for the period following unification, the State Treaty and the Unification Treaty also affected certain actual constitutional amendments in East and West, and the treaties were adopted by the 2/3 majorities necessary to enact these amendments. Number one, constitution making without a constituent assembly. In his article, Professor John Elster analyzes certain characteristics of the constituent assemblies in America in 1787 and in France in 1789. One of the most notable features of the German constitutional settlement of 1990 is that it was achieved without the convocation of a constituent assembly, or indeed anything that resembled a constituent assembly at all. There was no self-conscious recurrence to the singular and unitary constituent power, carefully analyzed by Professor Ulrich Preyes, and there was no recourse to a unique body representing the people, which, in Elster's words, would have been suspended between the two and future, unbound by earlier generations, yet binding the later ones. The failure to convene a constituent assembly was a deliberate choice. The West German Basic Law Constitution clearly possessed a mechanism for unification that would have involved calling a convention drawn from the populations of West and East Germany, a body that in some ways might have been analogous to the American Constitutional Convention or the French Assembly or Assemblée Constituante. Article 146 of the Basic Law, discussed in this context by Professor Preyes, provided that unification could have been achieved by the adoption of a new all-German constitution to replace the Basic Law. According to the prevailing view, this constitution could have been proposed by a national convention and then perhaps submitted to the people for ratification in a plebiscite.
This is called studying. This is called teaching.
This method, however, was not chosen, rather due to Eastern pressure for rapid unification under the Basic Law, fueled by a continuing migration of Eastern citizens to the West, as well as the clear preference of the conservative coalition governing West Germany. The prevailing political groups agreed that unification should occur under Article 23 of the Basic Law, through which the GDR would join or accede to the Federal Republic. This process required a 2/3 vote of the GDR Parliament, Volkskammer, for accession to the Federal Republic. Ratification of accompanying treaties also required a 2/3 vote of that chamber. Ratification of accompanying treaties also required a 2/3 vote of that chamber, as well as a 2/3 vote of the Bundestag and the Bundesrat, the two houses of the West German Parliament. All right. The results confirmed in large measure the consent of the German people to the fact and modalities of unification. Now all that remains is the possibility of a referendum to be held in the next few years, which could result in a new constitution. Such a constitution might lead to the replacement of the FRG for all practical purposes by a new state, Germany, or United Germany, or United Federation of Germany, or whatever name would be given to the newly United States. Does this mean, however, that the unification of Germany has taken place regardless of international law? The process, of course, had many important aspects unrelated to international law. However, the questions to be examined here are that what exactly were the international legal parameters of the unification process, and to what extent have they been acknowledged and incorporated into the legal instruments affecting the unification. It seems that in situations of an extremely political character, such as the one concerning the reunification of Germany, public international law cannot provide one final simple solution. An international law is essentially a just dispositivum. States can only be bound if they so choose or have so chosen in the past. If, however, only explicit choices were considered to have binding effect in international law, too many gaps would exist to make it a useful system. Acquiescence thus plays a prominent role. Furthermore, building upon acquiescence, cases of estoppel or preclusion may sometimes arise. With regard to the question of German unification, therefore, public international law could only provide the legal framework within which states had the freedom to opt for the various choices available to them. Nevertheless, acting within this framework was a legal duty for all states concerned. The principles of sovereignty and freedom of states, however, can go even further. By acting anonymously, affected states may set aside rules of international law, be they in the form of treaties or customary law, so long as no right of another state is infringed nor any peremptory norm of international law violated. This is the essence of the notion of just dispositivism. This means that if all parties with rights and obligations concerning the German unification, the four occupation powers, the two Germanys, the 9 remaining member states of the European communities, EC, the EC themselves, insofar as they can act as a subject of international law, and possibly others, were in agreement concerning the means, the modalities, and all the implications of the realization of such unification. Then they could set aside the existing legal framework. If this were to occur, these parties would, by their very acts, create a new legal framework. Such a course would not enhance the autonomous value of international law and the role it plays in politics, but it would be interesting to analyze the result as a new piece of law. Either way, an analysis of the international legal ramifications of a unified Germany will reveal ramifications beyond the more narrow issue. Let me see. What's this? Okay. As to the actual issue of unification, only if one of the parties mentioned had wished to postpone, modify, or prevent a certain form of unification contrary to the desires of other parties would the existing international legal rights and obligations really have come into play. What role these rights and obligations could have played is therefore the central theme of this article. However, in view of the enormous complexity of the problems involved, this article can do more than provide a general overview. Sections 2 through 7 will first sketch the outlines of the rights and obligations confronting the two German states before unification. Section 8 will compare those outlines to the actual political outcome of the unification process. The former 6 sections will explore a number of different contexts in which legal rights and obligations could have been found. The first context discussed in Section 2 concerns the power of the 4 victors of 1945 over the two German states as a consequence of inter alia, the absence of a peace treaty. The second context discussed in Section 3 is that of the relationship between the two German states inter se, which until very recently still consisted of confrontation with each other over the heritage of the war. This confrontation was legally entrenched in their basic laws and their claims with regard to each other, especially the claims of the FRG with regard to the GDR. And in this situation, legal principles such as acquiescence and estoppel are relevant. The third context discussed in Section 4 is the is the incorporation of the two German states in the military blocs formed around the United States and the Soviet Union, NATO and the Warsaw Pact, respectively. Because of its close relationship with NATO, the role of the Western European Union will also be dealt with in this context. And then 7 examples.
Real quick, Israel, let me give some shout outs before we continue. All right. Ambassador Trinity Davis Floyd in the house. Ambassador Raheem Alabay.
Peace.
Brother Zion.
Peace.
What's that? Exion.
Zion.
Yes. Afro Samaria. We have Richie Rich, Denzel Early, Boo Paul, Pan, Malati Tourism. Peace, everyone. And we have user SM4YR3ZL1C. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Joel Master, Brother Jay in the house. All right, welcome. Denzel Early, 55. We fall under federal jurisdiction, not state jurisdiction. Not state jurisdiction. I had no idea. I never. All right, let me. There's a misunderstanding what I said. I never said that we fall under the federal jurisdiction and not state jurisdiction. I never said that. I said the misconception that I parroted. Let's be clear on what I parroted it for 27 years. That's the misconception that I parroted for 27 years, is that the federal government was established by the Moors. The federal government is the Moorish government. Make clear, I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that is what I parroted for 27 years. That the federal government is the Moorish government, and the state's government is the Europeans. So what I parroted for 27 years is that because the federal government is the Moorish government, and that the federal government has jurisdiction over the Moors, the state governments don't have jurisdiction over the Moors. New Jersey State, South Carolina State, California State, Ohio State, Kentucky State, New York State, etc. don't have jurisdiction over the Moors. When the Moors move their cases out of federal state courts, because the state courts don't have jurisdiction over Moors, into federal court. Remember, that's not my claim. I'm saying that is what I parroted for 27 years. There's no evidence that the Moors established the federal government. So you have the federal government, then you have state governments. There's no documentary evidence. So I didn't study that. I parroted it. I want to be abundantly clear. All right, so where are we doing? What a post office. Ask the questions relative to the presentation. The United States is a third-party contractor This is Afro Samaria 6170. The United States is a third party contractor to the contract treaties between Morocco and Great Britain. The third party agent to proper law of the contract has exceeded his authority. I'm not clear on this. The question. Oh, so statement. It's a statement. Well, the DuPont in the house. All right, Israel, you back? All right, continue.
All right. Seven examples of real unification instruments. Example, instrument, and what happened. So example number one, England and Scotland, 1707. The instrument, Act/Treaty of Union. Excuse me. What happened? The English and Scottish parliaments passed acts of union that created the United Kingdom called Great Britain on May 1st, 1707. Number two, second example, Great Britain and Ireland, 1800 to 1801. The instrument, Acts of Union. What happened? The Kingdom of Great Britain and Kingdom of Great Britain and Kingdom of Ireland were united into one kingdom called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Example number three, Egypt and Syria, 1958. Instrument, Union Pact forming the United Arab Republic. What happened? Egypt and Syria signed a Union Pact forming the United Arab Republic. Syria later withdrew in 1961. Example number four, Tanganyika and Zanzibar, 1964. The instruments, Articles of Union/Union Act. What happened? The act ratified the Articles of Union between Tanganyika and Zanzibar and provided for the government of the United Republic. So example number five, United Arab Emirate, 1971. Instrument, Federal Constitution. What happened? The Emirates formed a sovereign federal state with federal powers and gradual economic/customs unity among the Emirates. Example number six, East and West Germany, 1990. Instrument, German Unification Treaty. What happened? The Unification Treaty settled the accession of the German Democratic Republic to the Federal Republic of Germany and transferred West Germany's political/legal system to the eastern states. Deutschland. Then we have example number seven, North Yemen and South Yemen, 1990. Instrument, Unity Constitution/Declaration of Unity. What happened? North and South Yemen officially united into one. North and South Yemen officially united into the Republic of Yemen on May 22nd, 1990. The Constitution was ratified by a popular referendum in 1991. So, application to the United States and Morocco. Found in effect one, the 1786 instrument between Morocco and the United States is titled and structured as a treaty of peace and friendship, not a treaty of union. Avalon Project. Found in effect two, the treaty regulates ships, war, commerce, protection, consuls, debts, and disputes. It does not create one government, one parliament, one court system, one constitution, or one citizenship. Found in effect three, the 1836 treaty continues the peace relationship and again treats the United States and Morocco as separate parties. Found in effect four, the modern U.S.-Morocco Free Trade Agreement is commercial. It concerns trade barriers and market access, not governmental merger. Conclusion of law. There is no evidence from these treaty instruments that Morocco and the United States merged into one government. The lawful conclusion is the United States and Morocco have a historic treaty relationship, but not a unification treaty, declaration of merger, or a single merged government. So a strong lesson statement, a treaty proves relationship, but the words of the treaty determine the kind of relationship. The United States and Morocco entered into peace, friendship, commerce, and trade relations. They did not enter into a political merger. A lawful merger would require express language, uniting governments, territory, constitutional authority, citizenship, and public institutions. That language is not present in the Morocco-United States Treaty. So now we're going into part 2. Title: Part and Parcel / Partial. We're going to start off by reading the Moorish Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. I'm reading the best I can anyway. Let's see. So
read that act that reads part and parcel. Was that Act 4?
6.
Act 6. All right.
Oh, yes, it's Act 4 too. It's 4 and 6. And 7. But so Act 4 says, Act 4 reads, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 6 reads, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southeastern shores of Africa. And X7 says, or reads, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet Noble Drew Ali through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Did you want to speak on the part and parcel?
Yes. All right. So for 27 years, there was a great deal of discussion that I've had in the classes that I was part of the Constitution and bylaw of the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science reads part and parcel, PARCL, and the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America reads part and partial, PARTIAR. And so what was the discussion was that there was a deliberate change from parcel to partial, and that part and parcel means that we are that we are the sovereigns of the land. So that was a deliberate change from the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science to the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science of America, part and parcel, part and partial. All right. So it wasn't. So that was a lot of discussion on that. Now let's put the prepositional phrase. Whether it's part and parcel, it's of this said government. Part and parcel of this said government. Or part and partial of this said government. How are the Moors? What instrument that you in the listening audience or anyone can present as evidence, as an exhibit that made Moors part and parcel of this said of the United States or part and partial of the United States? I just want to set that, and that there was a huge. I mean, this was hours upon hours. I mean, wow. And so I was trapped into that paradigm for 27 years. I'm like, man, what did I know? I'm just keeping it real, my brothers and sisters. Because I was trapped in this paradigm for 27 years. What Israel read for the past hour. That was none of the teachings. At all. And this is why Israel read it. Because we want the audience to see. We're teaching. We don't want to say, well, they can read on their own, Israel. We don't need to read all that. No, yes, we do. Israel is very clear that we need to read it because he'll tell you, no, he'll say, yeah, Abdul, we need to read it. Absolutely. We need to read it so people can see it. I mean, they can go look for themselves, but there's parts of it that we need to read. So Israel did a very great job in putting together this. We can continue.
All right. What is the United States legislation that made Noble Drew Ali's process to make the Moorish American part and parcel / part and partial of the United States government? Let's examine cession treaties, naturalization treaties, United States citizenship laws, United States naturalization laws as a guide. Article 6 of the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution. How did Noble Drew Ali gain United States legislative power to create a law making the Moors / Moorish American part and parcel / part and partial of the United States government? What United States legislation created the Moorish Science Temple of America to be a United States citizenship office? Does the Illinois State Herds Smith Revised Statute, Illinois State Religious Corporation, make Moor / Moorish Americans part and parcel / part and partial citizens of the United States?
Real quick, Israel, I'm going to address this. There will be members of the Moorish Science Temple, Grand Sheiks, Grand Sheikhs, Sheikhs, Grand Governors that will say that we're attacking Noble Drew Ali. they will call this, what we're doing right now, an attack against Drew Ali. I gotta say it publicly because they will attack us publicly. They will make comments about us publicly. I mean, I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah, that misconstrued this whole lesson here.
Which is fine. We're fine. We this is public. We public, and we're grown. We're good. We're good. They will attack us. We're fine with that. But this type of lesson, type of facilitating epistemological critical thinking among the people is very important. We don't want to pass this down to the children. So we're fine with being attacked. We will be attacked. We will, not maybe, not might. We will be attacked. I'm just keeping it real. We will be attacked. And I'm fine with that. But if they are calling this process an attack against Drew Ali, raising questions about evidence, to present evidence. How do we, a little child, Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, or Sheikins, how did we become part and parcel of the United States? Child, the prophet said, or you'll get some. Don't question, child. Now, we stimulated questions. They call the questions attack. Y'all understand what's going on?
So in return, they'll feel like they need to defend something, which would actually be considered the attack, because we're not attacking anything.
Nope. I just wanted to put that out there. Go ahead, Israel. Thank you.
So this is Justia, the Justia website, becoming a U.S. citizen under naturalization law. Deciding to become a U.S. citizen is a major decision. If a person was not born as a U.S. citizen, that person has to naturalize to become a citizen. Naturalization refers to the process through which U.S. citizenship is given to a foreign citizen or foreign national after he or she has met the requirements outlined in the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA. When an individual is naturalized, he or she is essentially agreeing to accept all the responsibilities of being a U.S. citizen, including loyalty to the Constitution. In return, U.S. citizens enjoy the rights and privileges that accompany their citizenship. A person may qualify for naturalization in the following instances. The individual has been a permanent resident for at least 5 years and meets all other eligibility requirements. The individual has been a permanent resident for 3 years or more and meets all eligibility requirements to file as a spouse of a U.S. citizen. The individual has qualifying service in the U.S. Armed Forces and meet all other eligibility requirements, or the individual's child may be eligible for naturalization if the individual applying on behalf of the child is already a U.S. citizen. The child was born outside the U.S. The child is currently living outside the U.S. and all of the other eligibility requirements are met. So this is, again, becoming a U.S. citizen under naturalization law. Article 3, Section 1 of the United States Constitution. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, was created by the Homeland Security Act of 2002. The legislation split the former Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, into 3 distinct agencies, shifting USCIS into the new Department of Homeland Security on March 1st, 2003. Legislative and agency background. The law, Homeland Security Act of 2002, dismantled the 70-year-old Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, effective date March 1st, 2003, when USCIS officially assumed operations. Core focus, created to handle lawful immigration and benefit applications exclusively, separating service functions from enforcement duties. Sister agencies. The same law also established U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to manage border security and enforcement. Claim. Noble Drew Ali's nationalization process takes Moorish Americans from the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, and 15th Amendment to the constitutional fold of the United States Constitution, organic preamble, 7 articles, and Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments. Amendment 14, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Elements of nationality does not include individualism. So, full breakdown of nationality, we have the first column, consanguineous aspect of nationality. The second column, socio-cultural aspect of nationality. The third column, political framework of nationality. And the fourth column, legal framework of nationality. So, consanguineous, social-cultural, political, and legal. Under the consanguineous aspect of nationality, we have consanguinity, ancestry, parentage, descent, genealogy, pedigree, and lineage. Under the socio-cultural aspect of nationality exists language, dress/hairdress, ceremonies/dance, holidays, rituals, festivals, religion. Under the political framework of nationality, it involves defining the national identity of the people, constitution, through the nation's constitution, the political term, the people of Burkina Faso, the people of France, the people of China, etc. Under the legal framework of nationality, this involves the legislation and execution of nationality laws, just sanguinis, just soli, naturalization. So then we extend, this last column is extended legal framework of nationality. The legal framework of nationality, the first column we have just sanguinis, the third column just soli, the fourth column naturalization. The first column just sanguinis, the second column just soli, the third column naturalization. So under just sanguinis, right of descent/parentage, acquiring nationality through descent from a citizen parent according to the nationality law of the state. Examples: someone born on U.S. soil to German citizen parents generally acquires dual citizenship of both the U.S. and Germany. Someone born on U.S. soil to Mexican citizen parents generally acquires dual citizenship of both Mexico and the U.S. Someone born on Russian soil to Nigerian citizen parents acquires Nigerian citizenship by descent. Then we have under the just soli column, right of soil means the right of soil / place of birth, acquiring nationality because of birth within the territory of a state, according to that state's nationality law. Examples: someone born on U.S. soil to French citizen parents generally acquires dual citizenship of both France and the U.S. Someone born on Canadian soil to Spanish citizen parents generally acquires dual citizenship of both Canada and Spain. Someone born on Mexican soil to Spanish citizen parents generally acquires dual citizenship of both Mexico and Spain. So then we have the naturalization, under the naturalization column, uh, acquisition of citizenship after birth through a voluntary legal process under the domestic law of the state. Application/consent of the individual. Lawful or habitual residence as required by state law. Good character where required. Language/civics/integration requirements where required. Oath or declaration of allegiance where required. Dual nationality and renunciation rules vary by state. Did you want to build on any of these two charts, Brother Abdullah?
No, you did. That's you thorough with it, man.
Clear. Then we have showing the current state and condition of our people, application of international law. Territorial sovereignty. A state's sovereign authority to govern within its territory and control resources, subject to international law and free from unlawful external interference. Acquisition of nationality. The legal means by which an individual acquires the nationality of a state. Historical doctrine. Acquisition of nationality through subjugation and cession. Classical international law treated certain lawful changes of sovereignty by subjugation or cession as capable of changing the nationality of inhabitants. Modern international law does not recognize territorial acquisition resulting from the unlawful threat or use of force. A treaty may regulate the nationality of or citizenship status of inhabitants when territorial sovereignty is ceded, transferred, or otherwise altered. Territorial cession treaties with nationality/citizenship provisions. Examples: Article 3 in the 1803 Louisiana Purchase Treaty between the United States and France. Inhabitants of the ceded territory shall be incorporated into the Union and admitted as soon as possible to the rights, advantages, and immunities of U.S. citizens. Number 2, Articles 5 through 6 in the 1819 Adams-Onis Treaty between the United States and Spain. Article 5 permits inhabitants who wish to leave to remove to Spanish dominions. Article 6 provides for incorporation of inhabitants remaining in the ceded territories and admission to U.S. citizenship rights. Articles 8 and 9 in the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo between the United States and Mexico, Mexicans in the transferred territories could retain Mexican citizenship or acquire U.S. citizenship. Article 9 addresses incorporation and citizenship rights. Number 4, Article 3 in the 1867 Alaska Treaty of Cession between the United States and Russia. Inhabitants could return to Russia within 3 years or remain. Those remaining were to enjoy U.S. citizenship rights, subject to the treaty's separate historical treatment of native tribes. Number 5, Article 9 in the 1898 Treaty of Paris between the United States and Spain. Spain peninsular subjects could preserve Spanish allegiance by declaration. Otherwise, they adopted the nationality of their territory of residence. The civil rights and political status of native inhabitants of ceded territories were left to Congress. Again, territorial sovereignty. A state's sovereign authority to govern within its territory and control its territorial resources, subject to international law and free from unlawful external interference. A treaty is a legal instrument through which states may cede, transfer, recognize, delimit, or otherwise regulate territorial sovereignty and territorial rights. A treaty is an international legal instrument governed by international law. Treaties affecting territorial sovereignty, cession, and boundaries. Examples: Articles 1 and 2 in the 1783 Definitive Treaty of Peace between the United States and Great Britain. Great Britain recognizes the United States via the 13 states as free, sovereign, and independent states, relinquishes claims to their government and territorial rights. Article 2 establishes their boundaries. Number 2, Article 1 in the 1803 Louisiana Purchase Treaty between the United States and France. France cedes Louisiana to the United States forever and in full sovereignty. Article 2 in the 1819 Adams-Onis Treaty between the United States and Spain. Spain cedes East Florida and renounces its claim to West Florida. The treaty also defines the western boundary of the Louisiana Purchase. Articles 5 and 8 in the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo between the United States and Mexico. Article 5 establishes the new international boundary. Article 8 addresses Mexicans residing in territories that thereafter remain within U.S. limits. Number 5, Article 1 in the 1867 Alaska Treaty of Cession between the United States and Russia. Russia cedes its territory and dominion in North America to the United States. Number 6, Articles 1 through 3 in the 1898 Treaty of Paris between the United States and Spain. Article 1, Spain relinquishes sovereignty over Cuba. Articles 2 through 3, Spain cedes Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippine Islands to the United States. Change of sovereignty of a people and the United States Constitution. History does not furnish us with a well-defined precedent where a nation, in case of conquest or acquisition of foreign territory, has ever succeeded in abolishing the laws and customs of a people brought under its dominion. Pilate surrendered Christ to the Sanhedrin because he had offended only against the Jewish authorities. Upon the overthrow of the Roman Empire by the northern barbarians, Theodoric, the enlightened king of the Ostrogoths, proclaimed that other kings had made the conquest at the ruination of the conquered peoples. That he, on the contrary, only desired that the Romans might congratulate themselves on the benefits of his dominion. His government was marked by a few radical changes in existing institutions, and by that humane and considerate policy which was observed by the Visigoths upon their entrance in Spain in permitting the inhabitants to continue in the exercise of their own laws and customs, while the conquerors practiced the unwritten laws and observances of the Goths. William the Conqueror, upon his invasion of the British Isles, was not able to extinguish Anglo-Saxon ideas of rights and justice, and the Moors occupied the Iberian Peninsula nearly 8 centuries, and although their sway affected legislation, they left it Spanish. Warren Hastings' plan of 1772 for the government of British India continued Mohammedan law in force. Austria has seen good reasons for not attempting to make changes in Hungary. While it is surprising to find how Spanish everything is even today throughout Latin America. And so it would seem that upon the broad and general grounds of the eternal fitness of things, aside from the political and legal aspects of the case, the United States of that's not okay. Let me just read this highlighted part.
Yes, read the highlight part.
By the recent treaty with Spain, sovereignty is ceded to the United States over Puerto Rico and the Philippine Islands with the following proviso. The civil and political status of the native inhabitants of the territories hereby ceded to the United States shall be determined by Congress. The seat in power imposes no conditions and reserves no rights defined and secured by the federal constitution to the inhabitants of these new possessions.
All right, so keep in mind that we are examining Juali's, we're measuring the statement that's in Act 6 of the Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Scientific of America. Being Moorish American, you're part and parcel of this said government and must live the life accordingly. We are measuring that statement, right, to these instruments, treaties, or how have people become part and parcel or citizens of the United States. This is not an act of attacking. This is critical thinking and analysis. So we're measuring the statement, or part and parcel of the said government, and must live life accordingly. How did Moors become part and parcel of the United States? How did the French subjects in Louisiana Territory become part and parcel or citizens of the United States? How did the Mexicans become part and parcel of the United States? How did the Spaniards in Florida become part and parcel of citizens of the United States? How did those in Cuba, Guam, Virgin Islands, Panama, Samoa, Puerto Rico in 1898 became part and parcel of the United States? How did we're measuring with instruments, treaties, United States naturalization legislation, United States nationalization laws. Your thing, Israel. Mm-hmm.
It is natural. Excuse me. It is natural for the people of the United States to turn to the federal constitution, the bulwark of their rights and liberties, for the solution of all kinds of governmental problems. And in so doing, there is a tendency to overlook one of its principal objects and purposes, namely, to provide means for the better distribution, exercise, and regulation of a greater part of the sovereign power of the United States than had existed under the Articles of Confederation. From the recognition of the independence of the United States among nations from 1783 until 1787, and until the time of its adoption, this government existed, however, and exercised sovereign power without the Constitution. Since its adoption and up to the present time, the government in numerous cases has exercised sovereignty independently of the federal Constitution. So this is History, Art, and Archives, United States House of Representatives, Historical Highlights, Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. It says, on this date, in a ceremony at the base of the Statue of Liberty, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, commonly known as the Hart-Celler Act, after its two main sponsors, Senator Philip A. Hart of Michigan and Representative Emanuel Celler of New York. The law overhauled America's immigration system during a period of deep global instability. For decades, a federal quota system has severely restricted the number of people from outside Western Europe eligible to settle in the United States. Passed during the height of the Cold War, Hart-Celler erased America's long-standing policy of limiting immigration based on national origin. 40 years of testing have proven that the rigid pattern of discrimination has not only produced imbalances that have irritated many nations, but Congress itself, through a long series of enactments forced by the realities of a changing world, often saw fit to modify this unworkable formula so that today it remains on the books primarily as an expression of grat, gratuitous condescension, condescension. Observed Seller, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. In its place, Congress erected a legal framework that prioritized highly skilled immigrants and opened the door for people with family already living in the United States. The popular bill passed the House 318 to 95, 318 to 95. The law capped the number of annual visas at 290,000, which included a restriction of 20,000 visas per country per year. But policymakers had vastly underestimated the number of immigrants who would take advantage of the family reunification clause. In particular, the law created new opportunities for immigrants from Asian nations to join relatives in America. Following Hart-Celler, annual immigration jumped to nearly 500,000 people, and only 20% came from Europe. So this is the Treaty of Peace between the United States and Spain, December 10th, 1898. The clause we were reading.
It's on the second page.
Okay, yeah. Article 9. Spanish subjects, natives. Let me make this bigger. All right. So Article 9. Spanish subjects, natives of the peninsula, residing in the territory over which Spain by the present treaty relinquishes or cedes her sovereignty, may remain in such territory or may remove therefrom, retaining in either event all their rights of property, including the right to sell or dispose of such property or of its proceeds, and they shall also have the right to carry on their industry, commerce, and professions, being subject in respect thereof to such laws as are applicable to other foreigners. In case they remain in the territory, they may preserve their allegiance to the crown of Spain by making before a court of record within a year from the date of the exchange of ratifications of this treaty a declaration of their decision to preserve such allegiance, in default of which declaration they shall be held to have renounced it and to have adopted the nationality of the territory in which they may reside. The civil rights and political status of the native inhabitants of the territories hereby ceded to the United States shall be determined by the Congress. Non-citizen national of the United States on Form I-9, employment eligibility verification, and the international law of application of law of acquisition of nationality through subjugation and cession. United States Congress legislated this legal status for those in the unincorporated territories that the United States acquired from Spain through the 1898 peace treaty between Spain and the United States, Virgin Islands, Guam, Samoa, Puerto Rico. Spain ceded a number of Spanish possessions to the United States, giving United States territorial sovereignty over those territories. This is the Form I-9, Employment Eligibility Verification, Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services.
Non-citizen, non-citizen national of the United States. Non-citizen national of the United States. That is the citizens. That is the framework or citizenship framework that where it says in the Article 9 of the 1898 treaty between the United States and Spain. The United States Congress can determine what? The status of the inhabitants. So the United States created a citizenship status, non-United States nationals. That's in the I-9 form. Those born Puerto Rico and Guam and Panama at that time, Panama, Cuba at the time, Virgin Islands, Samoa, non-United States nationals. That's on the I-9 form. We're making a connection. Article 9.
So now we have 8 FAM 302.6 acquisition by birth in Puerto Rico. Current 8 FAM 302.6-1 current law. A. Puerto Rico comes within the definition of United States given in Section 101, Part A, Part 38 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA. A person born in Puerto Rico acquires U.S. citizenship in the same way as one born in any of the 50 states. B. Section 302, INA, 8 U.S.C. 1402 applies specifically to persons born in Puerto Rico on or after April 11th, 1899.
So this is what Congress, real quick, this is what Congress, so once again, 9, Article 9 of the Constitution, Article 9 of the Constitution of the 1898 Constitution between Spain
Treaty
and the United States. Congress can determine the status. So what Congress is now doing in this legislation is determining the status of those in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
But Article 9. So how did those in Puerto Rico become parts of the United States? We're showing you. And then we're showing you the specific United States legislation. We're walking you through this. This is studying. This is teaching. Now I don't know what I was doing before, so I can't call it studying and teaching. So I can't call this studying and teaching, and I can't use the same words. Parroting. That's the word I mean. Parroting. Right.
So let me read Articles 1 and 2 of the same treaty. Article 1, Spain relinquishes all claim of sovereignty over and title to Cuba, and as the island is, upon its evacuation by Spain, to be occupied by the United States. The United States will, so long as such occupation shall last, assume and discharge the obligations that may under international law result from the fact of its occupation for the protection of life and property. And then Article 2 reads, Spain cedes to the United States the island of Puerto Rico and other islands now under Spanish sovereignty in the West Indies, and the island of Guam in the Marianas or Ladrones. And then Article 3 is Spain cedes to the United States the archipelago known as the Philippine Islands and comprehending the islands lying within the following line. And then it has the layout here. All right. So 8 FAM 302.6-2 U.S. citizenship granted to citizens of Puerto Rico and certain natives of Puerto Rico. A. The Act of March 2nd, 1917, granted U.S. citizenship as of that date to all citizens of Puerto Rico and to certain natives of Puerto Rico who had been absent from Puerto Rico on April 11th, 1899, but had returned to reside permanently. B. The following persons who did not make the declaration mentioned in Section 5 became U.S. citizens as of March 2nd, 1917. 1. All citizens of Puerto Rico, regardless of their place of residence, on March 2nd, 1917. And 2. All natives of Puerto Rico who were not citizens of any foreign country and who were absent from Puerto Rico when the United States acquired it, but had returned to Puerto Rico and were residing there on March 17, 1917. C. In addition, no U.S. citizen women who were married to Puerto Rican citizens acquired U.S. citizenship automatically upon their husband's acquisition of U.S. citizenship pursuant to Section 5, unless they were ineligible for naturalization. D. The opportunity to decline U.S. citizenship was included in Section 5 in recognition of the Puerto Rican nationalism of many Puerto Ricans. The Act of March 4th, 1927 allowed a person to repudiate such a declaration within the year following the date of the act and thereby to acquire U.S. citizenship. Section 322 NA permitted persons who had declared their intention not to become U.S. citizens under the Act of March 2nd, 1917, to acquire U.S. citizenship by making a declaration before the U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico at any time. E. Other provisions of Section 5 of the Act of March 2nd, 1917 permitted permanent residents of Puerto Rico who have been born there to non-U.S. citizen parents to acquire U.S. citizenship by declaring allegiance before the U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico within 6 months after March 2nd, 1917, or within 1 year of reaching age 21, if the person was still a minor on March 2nd, 1917. The Act of March 4th, 1927 amended Section 5 to provide that qualified persons who had not taken the opportunity to become U.S. citizens by making such a declaration had another chance to do so before March 4th, 1928. 8 FAM 302.6-3 U.S. citizenship of persons born in Puerto Rico on or after March 2nd, 1917 and before January 13, 1941. A. The Act of March 2nd, 1917 was originally enacted, did not make any provisions for acquiring U.S. citizenship by birth in Puerto Rico. B. The first law specifically relating to the acquisition of U.S. citizenship by birth in Puerto Rico was the Act of June 27, 1934, 48 Stat 1245. C. Under this act, persons born in Puerto Rico after April 10, 1899, who were not U.S. citizens on June 27, 1934, acquired U.S. citizenship on that date unless they, 1, had acquired a foreign nationality at birth, 2, had in some way lost previously acquired U.S. citizenship before June 27, 1934, or 3, were on that date foreign citizens residing abroad. D. Under the same act, persons born in Puerto Rico on or after June 27, 1934, but before January 13, 1941, became U.S. citizens at birth unless they acquired a foreign nationality at birth through a parent. The Act of June 27, 1934 was intended to confer citizenship only on persons born in Puerto Rico who would otherwise be stateless. Thus, acquisition of a foreign nationality in any manner, including by automatic operation of foreign law, will keep a person born in Puerto Rico from benefiting from the Act of June 27, 1934.
All right, that's then explain that. By automatic operation, by operational laws, it's called the Hague Convention of Stateless Person. You said a foreign law. All right, so they mentioned stateless, prevent of stateless. So because then you had the Hague Convention of Stateless Person. I forget what year. What year is that? 18 something, late 1880s. The Hague Convention of Stateless Persons. So that is what's going on here, preventing someone to become stateless. So they're applying the Hague Convention of Stateless Persons, like through this legislation. This is studying. This is called studying and teaching.
Was it 1954?
1954, Hague Convention of Stateless Person. All right. So that was it after this then? There's another. Was there? There's one before that. Was not one in the 1880s?
I'm about to check. Hold on. Yeah, 1893.
1893. There we go. 1893. 1893. Hague Convention of Stateless Persons. The first one's 1893 Hague Convention of Stateless Persons. What's that, Israel?
Is the Hague Conference on Private International Law. No, that's not the.
That's 1893?
Yeah, that's 1893. Original 1893 Family Law Conventions. Yeah. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing?
It's speaking about this person's.
Oh, it does. All right, can you read it again for the audience? Just read the title.
It says the Hague Conference on Private International Law was indeed first established in 1893, which aligns with the late 1800s timeline. However, that historic 1893 organization did not create the rules protecting stateless persons. Okay, never mind.
All right. Did not create the rules protecting stateless persons.
Yeah, 1954. It says 1954 convention relating to the status of stateless persons.
I think this was one in 1880, something like that. All right. Well, yeah, we definitely come back to that. But yeah, thank you. That's I just wanted to have the audience to have some solid stuff. This is good. This is good. We can go. We'll go until 9:10 as well. We can finish this up.
All right. It says, hold on. It says, if you're tracking an international agreement from 1880, it would not have been a Hague Convention, as the famous diplomatic structures at The Hague did not exist yet.
All right. Thank you.
So this is the Barbary Treaty. The Barbary Treaty, 1786 through 1816. Treaty with Morocco, June 28th and July 15, 1786. So we'll just read the highlighted. Here we go. Article 20. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the consul shall decide between the parties, and whenever the consul shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decisions, it shall be immediately granted to him. Article 21. If a citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatever. 22. If an American citizen shall die in our country and no will shall appear, the consul shall take possession of his effects. And if there shall be no consul, the effects shall be deposited in the hands of some person worthy of trust, until the party shall appear who has a right to demand them. But if the heir to the person deceased be present, the property shall be delivered to him without interruption. And if a will shall appear, the property shall descend agreeable to that will, as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. 23. The consuls of the United States of America shall reside in any seaport of our dominions that they shall think proper, and they shall be respected and enjoy all the privileges which the consuls of any other nation shall any nation enjoy. And if any of the citizens of the United States shall contract any debts or engagements, the consul shall not be in any manner accountable for them, unless he shall have given a promise in writing for the payment or fulfilling thereof, without which promise in writing no application to him for any redress shall be made.
So is this treaty? Does this treaty make the Moors citizens of the United States? There's no language. There's no collective nationalization language. There's no citizenship language. So you've seen treaties that have the Guadalupe Treaty between United States and Mexico, the Louisiana Purchase Treaty, 1803, between United States and France, the 1819 Treaty between United States and Spain. You know what the substantive language, the citizenship language looks like. You've seen it in other treaties. Do you see that type of language in this treaty? This is why we have to walk you through. That's why we have to read. You have to study. You have to have references. What's been going on is just making stuff up, coming out of thin air. No true studying. We can't pass that down to the children. We have to pass this down to the children. This type of epistemological reasoning, critical thinking, study, and research down to the children. Type of questions. And don't be afraid to ask questions. This is not an attack on Noble Drew Ali. But I know sheiks, members of the Moorish Science Temple, sheiks, sheikas, grand governors, grand sheiks, grand sheikas will say, I know they will say that this is an attack on Noble Drew Ali. I know that. I'm just keeping it real. We will be attacked. I'm not fine with that. All right, so I want to thank y'all for riding with us tonight. Next week, I will have in the house Pastor P, Pastor Phyllis Rami. She is friends with Latanya Davis Floyd, and also Francesca Diaz, and also Trinity. Know the trend. We have a voice, Trinity Davis Floyd. She's been on Trinity Davis Floyd's platform and also prayer line on Sundays. So Pastor P, Pastor Phyllis Rami, also known as Pastor P, will be my guest next week. All right. So till then, go to my website, mooresandmasonry.org. Go to mooresandmasonry.org for my books. Close it out, Israel. You're muted. I can't.
So thank everyone for the time and attention tonight. What's the next? We'll be on NYP Talk Show second Wednesday of next month, of every month. second Wednesday of every month. So meet us there. Who do you have next for Moorish Monday?
Pastor P.
That's okay. That's what you just
Yeah,
saying.
Pastor
Okay.
P. Oh, Phyllis Ramey, Pastor P. Yes. Yeah, next Monday. Yes.
So everybody tune in for Moorish Mondays every Monday. You know, every second Wednesday of the month, NYP Talk Show.
Mm-hmm.
And King is going to be on there. What?
Every fourth Monday. I mean, fourth Wednesday. King. And fourth Wednesday is King. El Bay.
Fourth Wednesday on the NYP Talk Show. You'll find brother King El Bay. So yeah. All right, everyone have a good night. Peace.
Peace, everyone.